So as we know that the thyristor operates in the three different modes. First one is the forward blocking mode, second one is the forward conduction, and third one is the reverse blocking mode. Okay, now so when it is said to be operated in the forward blocking mode, when we apply some positive voltage to anode terminal with respect to cathode, and if we keep the gate terminal open, then we can say that the thyristor is in the forward blocking mode, because during that time the even though the thyristor is in the forward bias state, it is not in the on state. Okay, so a very small amount of current flows through from anode to cathode terminal of the SCR, and the SCR is said to be operated in the forward blocking mode. Now we have already seen that the techniques through which the SCR can be turned on. The SCR can be turned on either by increasing voltage across anode and cathode to such an extent that the middle junction J2 will be broken down, because what happens that when anode is kept positive with respect to cathode and gate terminal is open, at that time junctions J1 and J3 were forward biased and junction J2 is reverse biased, right? And as we go on increasing voltage across anode and cathode terminal to such an extent that this junction J2 will be broken down, the SCR will be turned on. So this is the one way through which we can turn on the SCR. Other way is to apply positive voltage to gate with respect to cathode. Now depending upon this gate voltage, the SCR will be turned on. Okay, now when we apply this gate voltage, positive gate voltage to the gate terminal of the SCR, what happens? The carriers will be injected in the P region, so that as you go on increasing this gate voltage, more and more electrons will be injected in the P region, so that this middle junction J2 will be disappeared and large amount of anode current flows. Okay, once the anode current flows, the voltage across anode and cathode falls to very low value, approximately equals to 0.7 volt, because it is simply acting as a forward bias diode or a diode which is in the on state. Okay. So the characteristics initially, as you go on increasing the voltage across anode and cathode, a small amount of anode current is flowing through the device. Once the ECR has been turned on, the voltage across it will fall to a very low value, whereas as you go on increasing this voltage across anode and cathode, the anode current will start increasing at a higher rate. So this is what we have studied. Now we'll have a look at dynamic turn on characteristics. So in order to turn on this thyristor, what we should do? We need to apply some gate voltage. So, as I already told you, whenever anode is made positive with respect to cathode, as well as when we apply some positive voltage to the gate terminal, the the gate current will start flowing through the device. Okay, so this gate current will inject carriers into the P region, but initially what will happen is it will be concentrated near the gate terminal. Okay, and then it will contribute to the anode current. If anode current is allowed to increase at a faster rate, then a large current will flow through comparatively narrow channel, narrow channel due to the carrier concentration at the gate terminal. Okay. Now here, if you see here, the first thing is that we need to apply some gate current. Now, delay time here, delay time defined as TD. Okay, here delay time is nothing but what? It is the interval between the, if you see here, the delay time, it is the interval between the 10% point on the leading edge of this gate current or gate trigger pulse, okay, and the time when the anode current reaches to its 10% of the maximum value. Okay, this delay time is measured between the it is the interval between the point when the gate current is 10% of its maximum value and the instant at which the anode current reaches to its 10% value. म्हणजे काय, जसं आपण जेव्हा आपण गेट करंट देतोय तेव्हाच आपला एनोड करंट हा फ्लो व्हायला चालू होतोय. ओके, सो डिले टाइम इज डिफाइंड ॲज द it is the interval between the %10 point on leading edge of the gate trigger pulse and the time when the resultant on state current, or we can say that is simply an anode current, reaches to 10% of its maximum value. Okay, so जसं जसं आपण गेट व्होल्टेज गेट करंट द्यायला चालू केलं तसं तसं आपला एनोड करंट हा वाढायला लागला आणि delay time, it is the time interval between this 10% point on the leading edge of this gate trigger pulse and the point where the resultant on state current or simply an anode current reaches to its 10% of the maximum value. So that is what is called as the delay time. Okay. Now next term here you can say is the rise time. Okay. So what do you mean by rise time? How can we define this rise time? If you look at this graph carefully, for this anode current, we can say that it is the time interval during which the on-state current increases from 10% to 90% of its maximum value. Okay. Once the sufficient gate current has been applied, the anode current, as I have already told you, it will start increasing at a rapid rate. So this rise time is nothing but what? It is the interval during which the on-state current increases from 10% to 90% of its maximum value. Okay, it means that once the gate pulse has been applied, a large amount of anode current will start flowing through the device. Okay, and finally it is the turn on time, that is the total time period. Okay, so this turn on time, it is nothing but what? It is simply the sum of delay time and rise time. Okay, म्हणजे काय डिले टाइम तेव्हा आपण कन्सिडर करतो जेव्हा आपण जस्ट some positive gate voltage आपण आपल्या thyristorला देतोय. Okay, so that sufficient carriers will be injected into the structure and on-state large amount of on-state current will flow through the device. So before that, the forward bias thyristor, we can call it, the time required is called as the delay time. Okay, that is the maximum. We can say that till the maximum current, on-state current flows through the device, the we can consider that particular time period from just forward biasing that thyristor till the large amount of anode current flows through the device, we can consider that as a delay time. And rise time is nothing but what? It is the interval during which the on-state current increases from 10% to 90% of its maximum value. म्हणजे large amount of anode current it will start flowing through the device during that particular time period. So that is what is called as the rise time. And the turn on time will be consisting of delay time and the rise time. Okay. So during delay time, current flows only in the narrow region near the gate terminal. So the anode current is negligibly small, and we can say that the thyristor is in the forward blocking mode but about to conduct. Okay, and during the rise time, what happens? The anode current increases at a rapid rate. Okay. Now, if you observe the voltage across anode and cathode, so during this rise time, the voltage across anode and cathode will start decreasing, and at the end, once the maximum current starts to flow through the device, the voltage across anode and cathode falls to a very low value. Okay, understood everyone? Okay, similar to this turn on characteristics, there are dynamic turn off characteristics. Okay, so let us discuss that one also. So typical time required to turn on this SCR T on is about 1 to 3 microseconds. Okay, so this is for a typical time. Okay, so the next one we will talk about the dynamic turn off characteristics. Okay, now that we have already studied about how to turn on the SCR. Okay, so we have studied about the two currents, holding current and latching current. Now, can anyone tell me what should be the value of this anode current so that the device will be turned off? If you have understood the concept of holding current and latching current, please answer my question. What should be the level of the anode current so that the device which is in the on state, the SCR which is in the on state, can be turned off? try to correlate this with holding current or latching current. Yes, Jatin is absolutely right. When anode current is less than holding current, that device will be turned off. Very good, Jatin. So if we reverse bias the thyristor, conducting thyristor, and if we reduce the current flowing through the device below the holding current level of the thyristor, then the thyristor can be turned off, right? So let us have a look at the dynamic turnout characteristics of the ACR. So here you can see that I have drawn the reverse recovery characteristics or the dynamic turn-off characteristics of the SCR. So the process of turning off this SCR is called as commutation. Pro process of turning off this conducting thyristor is called as commutation. Okay. Now the this conducting thyristor can be turned off by reducing anode current to 0. Okay. Or to a level below holding current IH and maintaining reverse bias for a sufficient period of a time to remove or recover extra carriers from the junctions. Okay. Now when the thyristor is in the on state, when the thyristor is in the on state or is in the forward conducting state, junction J1, J2 and J3 all of them are forward biased. Okay. Now because of this, the two base regions of these thyristors have been heavily saturated with the electrons and holes. Okay, means what? There will be some extra charges stored in these base regions. Okay, now in order to turn off this conducting thyristor, what shall we do? We need to apply some reverse voltage across it. Now when we'll apply some reverse voltage across this conducting thyristor, what will happen? The holes and electrons in the vicinity of the junctions J1 and J3, okay, will diffuse through these junctions, okay, and it will result in a reverse current. Okay, now when reverse voltage is applied or the SCR is reverse biased, now when before that, when SCR is in the on state, extra carriers will be stored in the base region of the thyristor. Now when the SCR will be reverse biased, the carriers in the vicinity of the junctions J1 and J3, the stored carriers in the vicinity of junctions J1 and J3 will diffuse through these junctions and contribute to the reverse current. Okay. So far this reverse current is appreciable in magnitude. The voltage across the thyristor will remain at about 0.7 because as we have already studied that once the SCR is in the on state, the voltage across it will be approximately equals to 0.7 volt. Okay. So now When we will apply a reverse bias across this conducting thyristor, first of all, the forward current is reduced to zero and then the reverse current flows. Okay. Now, when about 60% of the stored charge carriers have been recovered, the reverse current reaches to a peak value. See here, as you can see here, when we will reverse bias the thyristor, the anode current will fall. First of all, it will be reduced to zero and then reverse current will start flowing through the device. Now, when about 60% of the stored charges have been removed, the reverse current will reach to its peak value. Okay. Now, beyond this value, the thyristor will develop its reverse blocking capability and the reverse current will start reducing at a faster rate like this. Okay. Then it will start reducing at a faster rate. So, the reverse current will flow until the extra carriers that have been stored in the vicinity of the junction J1 and J3 have been removed. Okay, once the charge carriers have been removed, the junctions will revert will go to the blocking state and the reverse current will reduce to zero. Okay, so as you can see here, the reverse current will be reduced to zero. First of all, when the thyristor is in the on state, the large amount of current flows through it. Once we reverse bias the thyristor, the anode current will start reducing. First of all, it will be reduced to zero. Then the charges that have been stored in the junctions at the junctions, they will be start recovering. So when about 60% of the charges at the junction J1 and J3 will be recovered, the reverse current will reach to its peak value and then it will start decreasing at a faster rate. Okay. So when almost all the carriers have been removed, this reverse current will be reduced to zero. Now here there are two things which you can observe here. First one is the TRR, that is reverse recovery time, and second one is the reverse recombination time. So what is this? So this reverse recovery time TRR. So this is the time required to recover or remove the stored carriers from the junctions J1 and J3. Okay. So it is the time required to remove or recover stored charges from the vicinity of junctions J1 and J3. Okay. So that it can regain its reverse blocking capability. So if you see here how this time period has been measured, it has been measured from the instant when the anode current reduces to zero. Okay. So this TRR is measured between the instant when the forward current and or anode current reduces to zero and the instant when the reverse current reduces to its leakage value. Okay. So this is the leakage value. So now this TRR is the reverse recovery time period. It is measured between the instant when the forward current reduces to zero till and the instant when the uh, reverse current reduces to its leakage value. Okay. So this is how the reverse recovery time can be measured. So at the end of this reverse recovery time, what happens is this thyristor will block the reverse voltage because junction J1 and J3 have been completely recovered. But this junction J2 has got some charges available or some trapped charges are there. Okay, so this thyristor will block the forward voltage only when the excess charge carriers that have been stored in this junction J2 will be recovered or recombined. Okay, so this inner junction J2 will require certain amount of time to recombine these excess carriers. Okay, therefore the reverse voltage will have to be maintained across the thyristor until and unless The charge carriers that have been stored in the junction J2, they have been recovered. Okay, so the next one is the recombination time. So what do you mean by the recombination time? It is the time required to recover the excess carriers at junction J2. सो जोपर्यंत हे कॅरियर्स जे या जंक्शन J2च्या विसिनिटी मध्ये आहेत ते कॅरियर जोपर्यंत रिकवर होत नाही तोपर्यंत आपला थायरिस्टर हा रिव्हर्स ब्लॉकिंग मोड मध्येच राहतो. जेव्हा जेव्हा जे स्टोअर चार्जेस या जंक्शन J2 च्या जवळ जे स्टोअर चार्जेस असतील जेव्हा ते सगळे कॅरियर्स रिमूव्ह होतील तेव्हा आपला थायरिस्टर हा परत फॉरवर्ड ब्लॉकिंग मोड मध्ये येतो. सो this recombination time can be defined for a period where the instant when the anode current or the reverse current has been reduced to zero till the instant the thyristor reverts to the or it is capable to withstand the forward blocking voltage, okay, or the forward voltage. So this recombination time, it is measured between the instant when the reverse current has reduced to zero or we can say that actually it is a leakage value but it is approximately equals to 0 to the instant when the thyristor is capable to withstand the forward voltage. म्हणजे आता आपण आपल्या थायरिस्टरला पुन्हा एकदा ऑन करू शकतो. ओके, सो let me repeat what we have studied right now. In order to study the dynamic turn-off characteristics, what we'll have to do is we need to apply some reverse bias across the conducting thyristor. That is, in order to turn off the conducting thyristor, what we shall do, we need to apply some reverse voltage across this conducting thyristor, as well as we need to reduce the current flowing through the device below its holding current level. Okay, now when the thyristor is in the on state or is in the forward conducting mode, the charges will be extra charges will be stored in the base regions so that these base regions will be heavily saturated with the extra electrons and holes. Now in during this forward conducting mode, the charges will be stored in the vicinity of junction J1, J2 and J3 until and unless all the stored charge carriers have been removed, the device will not be turned off. Okay, so now in order to turn off the device, we will apply some reverse bias across this thyristor because of which the charge carriers in the vicinity of junction J1 and J3 will be initially recovered. Once the charge carriers have been recovered, we will maintain the reverse bias across the contact thyristor so that the charge carriers that have been stored in the middle junction, that is the junction J2, that will be also recovered. So until and unless all the charge carriers that have been there in the vicinity of the three junctions have been recovered, the thyristor cannot be turned off. Okay. So once all these carriers have been recovered, we can say that the thyristor has been turned off and now it can be turned on again. Okay, so this turn off time consists of two time periods. One is called as a reverse recovery time Other one is the recombination time. This recovery time is the time period required to recover the charges that are there in the vicinity of the junction J1 and J3, whereas the recombination time is required to recover the charges from the junction J2. Okay, have you understood this? So there are various techniques to commutate this conducting thyristor that we will study in the second unit. Okay, how to turn on this SCR with the help of external circuitry, as well as how to turn off this SCR using the external circuitry. Okay, so that is called as a firing techniques and commutation techniques. So today we will stop here. There are two more devices that we need to study in the semiconductor devices. That one is the triac and other one is the diac. Okay, so we will study them in the next session. So this is it for the today's session. I'll take you leave now. Thank you. Have a nice day.